Did you know about the origin behind yoga? Can it be done as physical fitness without spiritual ties? Or is it inseparable from its demonic origins in Hinduism? Well, let's find out. Yoga's origin is in the religion of Hinduism. Within Hinduism, there are actually 5 different types of yoga: Raja, Karma, Jnana, Bhakti, and Hatha, or some people will say Hatha. Yoga makes up the substance of what it means to be a practicing Hindu. Despite the many types of yoga, most Westerners refer only to the Hatha yoga when they simply say, quote, yoga, end quote. Hatha yoga focuses on first purifying your physical body in order to purify your mind so that you may achieve spiritual openness with Brahman and free yourself from this illusion of life they call Maya. Hatha yoga was pioneered by Yogi Swat Marama in the 15th century before Christ. It is a form of physical purification for the body of yogis to aid in deeper and longer levels of meditation to their gods. Hatha yoga attempts through different body postures and breathing techniques to balance the two opposing forces within oneself so as to bring one to completeness and balance. Through Swatmarama popularized the practice of Hatha yoga, it is believed to have existed an ancient doctrine long before Swatmarama. The source of knowledge of Hatha yoga is said to originate from Lord Shiva, that was overheard by Parvati. Shiva is a major deity of the Hindu religion, also known as Shiva the Destroyer, and is the master of yoga. The goal of yoga. In actual practice, the word yoga signifies both the object attained, namely union of the soul and the oversoul, and also the method or methods by which this union is achieved. Yoga means to yoke or join. Hindus practice yoga in order to yoke themselves or join themselves to Brahman through various practices. Hatha yoga has 2 general sub-goals that is accomplished through postures, meditation, and breathing to attain samadhi and awaken one's kundalini. We are going to talk about a few types of yoga. Samadhi. Samadhi is a place of deepest meditation where one's consciousness merges with the object being observed. The observer and the observation become one. Samadhi is the 8th and final step of yoga. Kundalini. Kundalini, as the Hindus believe, is the wound up dormant energy at the base of your spine that is pictured as a serpent coiled 3.5 times around the spine. Through yogic practices such as pranayama, breathing control, chanting, and visualization, and is believed that one can awaken their kundalini. When one awakens their kundalini through yoga, the coil up force will uncoil and rise through the chakras, up the spine to above the head, leading one to deep meditation and bliss. Common effects of the state of meditation include involuntary seizures, increased body heat, spontaneous postures, and visions. Aside from the 5 types of yoga, there are 8, quote, limbs, end quote, of yoga, which are the actual practices that are done. Only one of the 8 limbs of yoga are postures and positions. Another includes breathing control. These 2 limbs combined make up Hatha yoga, which is extremely popular in America and synonymous with simply, quote, yoga, end quote. Asanas and pranayama. Asanas are the body postures that exercise the body so that one can focus their mind in meditation and separate themselves from their surrounding world and experience self-realization. Asanas were originally sitting positions for yogis to meditate in, but somewhere along the way, a great variety of poses developed. There are around 1,000 poses that are recognized by the Indian government. A Hindu's goal is to realize that they are one with God and that this world and its sufferings and limitations are simply an illusion of bondage. Asanas aim at allowing the Hindu to meditate deeper and awaken their kundalini in order to experience self-realization or samadhi. Pranayama accompanies asanas, but it is the control over one's breathing rhythm while meditating. Prana is the life force or spiritual energy in your body. Therefore, as you control your breathing, the goal is to ultimately control your life energy in a way that brings you to a higher level of meditation and awareness, so as to merge yourself with the divine consciousness. There is even such thing as astral yoga, in which the individual can develop siddhis or supernatural powers that allow the person to travel to other places via spirit travel. The dangers of yoga. The danger of yoga to the Christian interested in physical fitness is that yoga comes from demonic religion, and yoga itself is the very essence of what Hinduism aims at, becoming one with the universe. This is not something Jehovah wants us to aim for. Actually, the Bible represents that God wants us to steward over his creation instead of worshiping it. It is impossible to separate true yoga from true Hinduism. As it clearly stated above, the practice of yoga involves practices and forms of meditation that open doorways for demonic activity, attachments, and possibly even possession. Christians are not to engage in any practices that is demonically engaged, such as Ouija boards, seances, psychic practices, etc. Should a Christian use an Ouija board to teach their children spelling and teamwork? Why do we think we can't separate yoga from its roots? The dangers for ourselves and others greatly outweigh the benefits. Many yoga poses are named after deities or animals, reflecting the culture origins of yoga. However, practitioners can choose to focus on the physical benefits of the poses without connecting them to their spiritual origins. While these names may invoke images of worship, it is essential to consider the culture context in which they were created. In ancient times, poses were often seen as ways to connect with the divine and embody specific qualities associated with deities. People ask, what's so demonic about stretching? Well, remember, you are emptying your mind. You are meditating. You are breathing. You are focused. You are trying to erase everything in your mind mentally. And you are at one with yourself and with the false god that you are worshiping. You understand? You are paying homage to the false gods. So that's why you are doing their positions and putting your hands in those weird positions, because it all is one. So the yoga, remember what yoga means. It means yoke. Okay? So yoke. Then mentally you are clearing your mind. Then physically you are putting your body in these weird positions to let in an evil deity. You do know what deity is, right? That is a spirit, an evil spirit. Okay? That's what we're talking about right now. And then now you're doing the mantras. On top of you emptying your mind, putting yourself in that weird position, and now you are chanting something. It's like a ritual. Hello. Now we're going to talk about mantra. A mantra is a sacred utterance, a word, syllable, or phrase, often repeated in spiritual practices like meditation and prayer to focus the mind, invoke divine energy, and promote inner peace. Mantras are used in various traditions like Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism, and are believed to have both spiritual and psychological benefits. The term, quote, mantra, end quote, comes from Sanskrit, combining, quote, man, end quote, mind, and, quote, tra, end quote, instrument or tool. So what role do mantras play in the practice of yoga? Mantras are repetitive sounds used to, quote, penetrate, end quote, the depths of unconsciousness mind and adjust the vibration of all aspects of your being. Mantras can be chanted aloud, delved upon, or listened into. In yoga, mantras are typically chanted in Sanskrit. The Sanskrit word mantra is derived from the root word, quote, man, end quote, meaning to think, and tra from tra or tray, meaning to protect or to free from bondage or to free from the mind. They come in many forms. Typically, they are melodic and have mathematically structured meters. The sounds or or om are some of the most basic of mantras. Words are very, very, very powerful, just like music. Mantra is a sound vibration through which we mindfully focus our thoughts, our feelings, and our highest intention. Over time, it's believed the vibration sinks deeper and deeper into your consciousness, helping you to eventually feel its presence as Shakti, a powerful, if subtle, force working inside each of us that carries us into a deeper state of awareness. Now we are going to talk about chakras. The chakra of stability, security, and our basic needs. The root chakra is comprised of whatever grounds you stability in your life. This includes your basic needs such as food, water, shelter, safety, as well as your emotional needs of interconnection and being fearless.
But that very quickly became spiritual the more I read about it. And then I became a yoga teacher years later. And that, as I learned about the history of yoga, that just brought me right into Hinduism and all those concepts.
Well, of course, because people think yoga is just stretching or something,
right,
but really it's a religious liturgy, not just the kind of liturgy of liberal white girls in the suburbs, which is what it has effectively become
Indeed.
in America, but it goes back much further, and it's a Hindu spiritual practice.
The word yoga literally means yoke. And so in that context, it's to yoke spirit. So it's an invitation for the Hindu gods to kind of come into your body. And a lot of the poses are specifically reenactments or paying homage to scenes with ancient gods and things like that.
And I have to pause you. For people who are going to say, well, that's crazy, that's insane, you think you're inviting all these spirits in, it's just yoga. I guess I would have to ask those people, hey, don't you think it's a little weird that in your physical stretches, as you are presenting these things to be, that you regularly chant and invoke ancient kind of Vedic or Hindu utterances? Isn't that a little weird that you go into poses that are explicitly and intentionally spiritual? Which of us is the crazy one here? Because I'm just reading into this long-standing tradition, what it has already always presented itself as doing.
Right, and that's kind of a misconception a lot of people have. Even Christians that I talk to now say, well, what's so bad about yoga? I challenge you, go into a yoga studio and try and say God's name. You can't. It doesn't fit. You can feel it. When I was a yoga teacher, toward the end, I tried doing it, and you can just feel from the class, it's like...
You're not saying you physically can't utter the word God.
Right.
You're just saying no one in that class.
People don't want it.
Right.
I was even told, because I used to put yoga videos on YouTube as well, and I would try and say, let's let God's presence come into the room, kind of just when I was trying to straddle the fence of both at the time. This was about a year ago. So I would get comments, people saying, I don't like that word, could you say universe? So it's the whole...
I don't like that word. Can you say Moloch, please?
Right.
Can you say Baal? Right.
So the yogi concept of God is very much source, universe, we are all God mindset. And alongside with what you were saying, with the chanting and things like that, it's not just the chanting, it's the poses themselves. They're very unnatural. It's very different than just stretching.
Yeah.
So
If you want to stretch, you can do Pilates, right? There's
Yeah.
no, there's no
Right.
ohms and ahs in Pilates.
And so I always say that yoga is not a physical practice with spiritual benefits. It's a spiritual practice with physical benefits.